Oh. Well, I'll tell you what. Hey, I started right now, man. So what's up, guys? It's the Experienced Optimist, and today I'm here with a special guest. I'm gonna call. I mean, do you like being called just Tony? Is that good?
It's up to you, bro.
Well, I'm gonna call him Big Tony. I'll just say that, Big Tony, real cool guy. I was listening to a podcast that he was on. He's a young dude, man, like 22 years old, if I'm correct, right?
Uh-huh.
22 years old, real wise for his age. And I just really wanted to have an honest conversation about life, about the community, about like things that have been going on. So I just want to say, what's up, Tony? How you doing, man? I know you're still eating.
Peace to all the family.
Well, say something about yourself, man. You live in Chicago. What else?
Yeah, I live in Chicago. I'm a engineer, producer, performer,
Mm-hmm.
musician. That's pretty much my main thing. And we actually got a studio. It's doing pretty decent. We're working on our own material. So I'm going to definitely patch everybody in when the stuff is all in order. And
Okay.
pretty much, yeah, I grew up uh, in Chicago, obviously. I've been all around the city and I've been to different parts of the nation. I have been to the Caribbean once. It was Jamaica. I plan on going to St. Thomas where my great grandparents and them live. So we got to see what's going on with that. I got a lot of family from all over, so I get a lot of different input. I got people of all walks of life, all faiths in the family, so we talk about this stuff. I've been raised like that to talk, about certain pertinent issues and esoteric topics and things of that nature. So I kind of had this background of intelligentsia. And
Oh,
go ahead.
oh no, 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 no. Keep going.
Oh yeah, my parents they definitely are tapped in to certain other sources, and I'm not gonna be spooky on here, but stuff that I kind of visualize and hmm, trying to think of the word to say, but shit I kind of see it comes true. So I've been kind of dealing with that type of stuff since a very young age, and I had a very unique experience, even that, even compared to other black folks. You know, me and my brother, we don't really act in the same manner as most people. So I don't know. I guess that makes me an elitist by default. And then I was always select, but I didn't know it. So when I started losing weight and getting back in the gym after football, uh, niggas' wings started sprouting, and I started rapping more. I started getting nice with the lyrics and stuff. And don't mind the photo. I kind of look kind of Down syndrome ish in this joint, but I got it more. So yeah.
Well, basically, I wanted to talk to you about, and like we talked about it briefly, kind of about
Hmm.
you said elitist, but you said in order to make the community better, you said you need to
Uh,
separate yourself from others, and I want you to just talk about that.
yeah, for the black community, the biggest problem that we face is we have a lot of rabble, and the rabble gets a chance to speak when they're not necessarily in an advantageous position to do so. They end up dissenting and throwing divisive, divisive opinions all over the place, and that confuses the masses of black people. So what I'm advocating for is a complete revamp of black American society, and that starts on a genetic level. So what we have to do is start breeding better. It's called the science of mating. Elijah Muhammad talked about it years ago, and it still stands true to this day. A lot of the stuff that brother says. So that's part of the outcome that I foresee. Because, like I said, we had all these weak gene codes breeding and all this dysfunction because it's been proven that genetics are affected by environment and diet and mentality, which are also in turn affected by the environment. So gene codes are written based on what happens to you in your life. So we're passing these defective codes down, and we have a lot of mixtures, admixtures in the black community in America. So we kind of got to breed that out and get back to the indigenous roots. and some of the cultural practices that we had back in Africa and back in Black, Native American, and other places. We need to readopt those and try to work them for the 21st century and beyond, and the 22nd, which is approaching, and all these other things. You know, we have to kind of map out and figure out a long-term plan for the community. And part of it is separating the wheat from the chaff.
Okay, I see what you're saying. My whole thing with people, I've always thought that if you can take a kid, let's say you take a kid that from a single mother, bad neighborhood, whatever, and you get him young enough, I believe that you can take him straight to the Caribbean, man, raise the kid up, and then because he's in a different environment, he'll be raised up and have a different mindset and actually be more productive. You know, I think the more you stay in American culture, I think it's more destructive. I mean, what do you think about that? Do you think if you can take a kid, take him to a better environment, do you think that will negate some of the issues that you're talking about?
Definitely in certain circumstances, because not all people respond to stimulus the same way. And also on top of that, some of these other countries have problems with so-called quote unquote white supremacy. And like I know in the Caribbean, I've seen a lot of self-hatred and skin bleaching and things of that nature. And then the Chinese taking over and whatnot. So we have to factor these things as well. But I do agree with the premise that you're putting out there, that they need to broaden their horizons as children so that they're not limited and stuck in one mentality that keeps them locked down.
Yeah. Sometimes you do see like the self-hate that you have in the Caribbean sometimes, yeah. But I don't think it's as bad as it is here in the States, though. The thing is with the States, I noticed, and I wanted to ask you about that. It's like in the States, it seems like you're always fighting an uphill battle. The guy may say, hey, you know what, you need to focus on group economics and stuff like that. But then the other guy will go ahead and stab you in the back. Whereas I find if you're dealing with people from the Caribbean, even if they kind of hate themselves, they still seem to work together for a common goal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've seen them work with each other, but a lot of times, a lot of times when they come over here, like this is the thing, Tariq is right about this. The people from the foreign blacks that come from different countries that come here predominantly are coons. I'm not saying you are coon or my relatives, because I have many, but when you hear them talk, it's along that line of F these niggas in America, they ain't nothing, they ain't gonna do nothing. We're better than them, they're Akatas, things like that. You know, we do hear that. So we have to be honest and look at it from both sides. But I do agree with you. They do know how to work together. But the thing is, though, they're coming to Black Americans, and some of the brothership is not there. And that's both sides. Either it's the brothers in America who feel slighted, or who feel that these invaders or whatever, or they feel like these tokens or whatever are coming over here. Then it's on the other side where, damn, these niggas, they don't do anything. They're lazy. That's this, and that. And the heart of that is propaganda. Because in America, whenever the missionaries of the Western world go out to these foreign countries, they portray Black Americans as dysfunctional and a whole host of other things with mediums like BET and MTV and shit like that. And then on the flip side, they tell us that Africans are this, and that. And the few that get sent over here had like at least half of them are on some bullshit when they talk to us. So it's propaganda on both sides. But really, also something that people need to understand is that we are not a monolith globally. Black people across the planet have thousands of different tribes and ethnic groups. And we all have our own haplogroups, some of us. Some of us belong to the same, some of us don't. So we have to look at that too. There's never been this super black, pro-black paradise Wakanda. It's never existed. We've all been at war, or at odds at least, or maybe, to put it lightly, a rivalry. So we have to factor that in. What we're doing now is a first. This is creating a Black tribal confederacy globally. And that's really what we need to focus on. But it starts with Black Americans. because Black Americans, I will say this, have proven themselves in the global arena to be a certain type of revolutionary. Because a lot of the stuff in not necessarily Black Americans, but Black Westerners, because you got the Haitians, the Jamaicans, uh, some of the other Caribbean islanders, some of the Black Americans, we put in work. Like the Black Western Hemisphere people, we put in a lot of work. And that revolutionary spirit is still there, but we have to revamp it and cultivate it and bring it into the next millennium. That's pretty much my take on it.
Yeah, I can definitely see the propaganda thing. Because you see that a lot, the propaganda for sure. There's a lot of like, oh yeah, you know, African Americans are lazy, they don't do anything. I mean, I heard that a lot when I was a kid. You see that from the other side as well, like I was talking about before, like because I remember like really trying to reach out and be friends with a lot of African Americans, and man, I just got too much pushback, man. There's too much pushback. So then you form this negative mindset around that.
Exactly.
And but here's the deal. Like we were talking about before, I mean, people always think that Black people coming together is negative when it comes to like other groups or whatever. But the funny thing about that is no one says anything if you're a West Indian, if you help other West Indians, right? Especially if you have accents that can differentiate yourself. No one seems to have a problem. But when it's African Americans helping other African Americans, then it seems to be an issue for some reason. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I have. It's like it goes back to slavery and propaganda. Like number one, African Americans are not a monolith. Once again, African Americans, quote unquote, I don't even use that word because it means nothing, but the American Negroes or Americans, quote unquote, Black people, DOS or whatever you want to call them, they come from hundreds of different tribes. Some of us come from Senegal. Some of us come from South America. Some of us come from Southern America, the United States of America, rather. Some of us come from Morocco, Sudan, whatever, Senegambia. A lot of us come from different places, so we got all these different tribal things, and they threw us together. And then what BGS pointed out, I got to give a shout out to him, was that they created the class of Black. There was never a race or a culture group of Black first. It was the class first. So they could put all these Negroes that they captured or indoctrinated in one category without having to break their culture down completely and build a new one up with them together. So the Negroes never built a collective so-called consciousness. It was fragmented from the beginning. Even though there are some similarities, it was never this big, say, Caribbean connection type of thing where we have it in Black America. So it's very different when it's dealing with Black Americans because we went through specific types of enslavement, and even West Indians, because they went through, you know, the shit with the French and the British just like us. But somehow in America, I don't know why, 100%, I know hints and inklings, but some definitely happened here that was different.
Well, I can tell you what. So me and my father, we were talking about this actually, and this is good that we're talking like this because I think West Indians and African Americans really need to talk and come to terms on a lot of things. Well, so basically in the West Indies, right? I was from a British colony. They would work you to death and whatnot. However, you were able to form these communal bonds with one another and start working together and start building, you know, businesses or whatever. You may not be the richest, but you'll have that. Whereas in African Americans, it seems like no matter what you guys did, there was always someone. There was always someone put. So you see that when you come over here, you see that and that animosity, it grows between the two groups. And one of the things they said that African Americans always have issues with Africans and West Indians. And it's funny because West Indians and Africans tend to work better together and then try to exclude African Americans. And I think there really needs to be more talk around that. And And the thing is, coming together doesn't mean that you. What I think in America, they think that coming together, you're trying to beat down or destroy like white people or Hispanic.
You said what? You got to say that again. I think you got snatched up, bro. Wait, hold on real quick. Can you repeat everything you just said? It sounded like you got snatched.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. It seems like you dropped out there. My whole thing is this. My whole thing is, like in America, it seems like if you're black and you come together and you're working together for a common goal, that you're trying to somehow negate the progress of like white people, Asian people, whatever. But I don't find that to be true at all. If you come together, if you make sure that every man is prosperous and self-sufficient and can build a life for himself, everyone benefits.
Yeah. But we definitely trying to do, or at least what I advocate, is brothers and sisters, we just want our own right to self-determination and the pursuit of our own happiness. And on top of that, we want our own autonomy. So in order to do that, because power is exclusive, we have to exclude other groups. That doesn't mean we're malicious towards them. That just means if they attack us, we will respond in kind with defense. Like, for instance, up in Chicago, a lot of Latinos feel like they have a right to attack black people in this city and shut us out of business. So we would, instead of getting emotional and, oh, we hate everybody, this, and that, fuck them, all that stuff, what we can do is provide countermeasures to protect ourselves and attack them when they, counterattack when they attack us. So it's not really about, oh, I hate them. It's about, are they getting in the way of my own self-determination and progress? If they are, they must be pushed aside so we can keep on trotting forward, because it's business. We can do business with other groups of people. Don't get me wrong. But if you come incorrect, you will get an incorrect response. That's all I'm saying. So I do agree with the Tariq notion of hold your own nuts, but at the same time, I do understand that we will have to do business with these people in the future once we get on our feet and possibly during the process of getting on our feet.
Now, see, the thing in America, man, to me, I think I'm going to be honest, I think it's a lost cause trying to build in America. I just don't think, I think from my point of view, America's pretty much anti-male all around.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't try to, I just think it's a lost cause, like, because you're always at each other's throats. I mean, the propaganda is so thick that even though America is, from my point of view, is anti-male, they always want you fighting other groups. Like, let me see. There was an article that said it best, man. It said something like, what did it say? It said, what did it say? It said, members of the working class have been taught to lick the boots of their masters and then bend over for another kick in the ass. They got these people so well trained that they'll take up arms against the other half of the working class as soon as the masters give the word. And I think that's the problem with America. I mean, you can try to build and all this stuff as much as possible, but I just don't think you can do it here. My point. I don't think. I mean, what do you think?
Well, this is what I think. I think, first off, I cannot abandon the homeland that my ancestors bled for and struggled so hard to keep and to maintain, because this is my country. My ancestors have been here for many generations, going back to the days when the first white man even touched down on this continent. And I know niggas gonna give me flack, oh, we African. Bro, I'm not even talking about that. To all them niggas that's gonna say that, I say we're a global people. So I'm not readily willing to abandon my homeland. But if I do have to, I will. I'm a pragmatist. I understand what we have to do and the necessary avenues. But I will say this, like I said, most often it's the other groups attacking us. And I'm not saying this just because I don't like them. I'm saying this because I have observed it. Like, for instance, I was in a psychology class at a college I go to, or used to go to, rather. They were doing a "What Would You Do" with John Quinones. I think it's CNN or some bullshit. Catch a Nigga Network, one of them, the Alphabet Boys. But yeah, they were doing a show about illegal immigrants, aka Mexicans and other Hispanics. And the people in the class saw that a brother went on to the show and he was talking about what did he say? He said, yeah, the Hispanics are stealing our jobs and they're pushing us out, which is true because it's happening everywhere. It's happening in LA, Chicago, other places. So the brother was like, man, I don't really feel sorry for him because this is a competition. And I'm like, yes. Oh, excuse me. Yes. So I'm like, I'm like, yes, this is true. So then I see the people in the class and black women with one of this chick had a blonde weave on, blue contacts. And she stood up and said, we need to defend the Latino community. Well, it should be immigrants and minorities together. And I said, hold up, wait a minute. I stood up in front. I'm the only black male in the class, so I got to represent. So, excuse me, fucking cold weather, man. But what did I say? I said, wait a minute, that's bullshit, because these Latinos call us mayate, they push us out, they call us niggers, all that stuff. They vote for Trump and all that stuff, the MAGA and now Latinos and other conservative Latin and all these people, they're against us. And this is a race. Like, I'm being super pragmatic. This is a fucking race. There will never be a coexistence amongst the lesser groups. Look at what happened to Fred Hampton. Fred Hampton tried to do it in this same city. And he went to the same college I went to and tried to do it. And what happened when he died? The same white people and poor people that he tried to rally shitted on him after he died, calling him nigger and all that stuff. So we can't really work with the other minorities and the other poor people. What we can do is do business with them in certain selected places. We can't offer no poor people's assault against the world. It's never worked. There's too many differences, and then the propaganda is too ingrained. I don't think that will ever be a possibility. But can we build something in America? We possibly could if we start to, like I said, get rid of the chaff and mobilize the entire black community. Once we've revamped it and done a clean slate and got that out the way, we can set together a plan that will push people into certain avenues so we can begin to dominate those avenues. That's one way. But I do agree with doing business and setting up shop and setting up homesteads and emplacements abroad.
Abroad. I think abroad's the only way. Like, we talked about it before. I mean, before I was doing the broadcast or whatever. But yeah, I see your point. It's just that, to me, like we were saying before, it's like America is just too much. There's too much infighting, man. Like, there's too much infighting. People just hate each other. When I look at, because people say, well, Hispanics, they always work together, but that's not what I see. When they say white people, they always work together, I don't see that either. I see a lot of people slaving away at some corporate job and not really making any progress in life, But what I like about these conversations is we've never had these type of conversations in the past at this level, right? What we're doing right now, I'm getting your perspective, you're getting my perspective. This is really beneficial. I want to ask you about that. Where do you think these type of conversations are going when it comes to men in the future? Because this is what I think. Right before you answer, I think the more men talk about the differences and the issues, it'll start to help people understand where people are coming from and actually grow and work together. What do you think?
It can definitely do that, but that will take a shitload of time. So I do agree that it will do that eventually, but this is my main thing. Like I said, I'm just looking out for the best interest of black people globally. So the other groups, yeah, I'm not against them, but I'm not for them either. I'm kind of neutral on that. So I do hear what you're saying, and it does make sense. eventually this type of discussion will lead to action, whether that be positive or negative for whatever side. I believe for the positive side, and I kind of got an inkling for the positive side for our people, the indigenous people, aka black. I can see us kind of tearing down these walls that divide African and American and Caribbean black person and Pacific Islander black person and whatnot, and we kind of unifying under some kind of tribal coalition. Like we say, look, we can maintain our own tribal practices as long as we come together when the need arises. Like the war, like Lord of the Rings, when all the what you call it, elves and dwarves and humans went to fight Sauron, they set aside their differences and joined together because Sauron is a greater threat than you know the bulk of the army that they were fighting with. If I'm saying this shit right, so these cats, we can mimic what they doing. Like some of this stuff in fantasy and whatnot, we can actually take hints from that and ancient writings and stories and whatnot. We could take hints from that and kind of mend the bridge, like you're saying. So I believe it can happen.
Man. I mean, it's it's a tough thing, man, because going back to the African American experience and the West Indian. Well, let me ask you this: what do you think people could do right now as Africans, African Americans, and African West Indians can do right now to bridge the gap, come together and talk productively about moving forward? What do you think?
The last part that you just said, come together and talk about it. That's one step. Step two, or another part of it, the other part of it rather, is setting aside some of the biases and being able to listen to each other and hear each other out and think logically. Now, some of these things might not be able to happen right away, but we need to work on them. We need to work on our communication skills instead of greeting each other as African booty scratcher or lazy American Negro or whatever. We need to set aside that type of stuff and look at each other as people. We need to stop looking at each other as, oh, he's a different tribe. He's Wolof. He's Yamasee. He's whatever. He's not Igbo. We have to see this is a black person first. Then he's Igbo. Then he's Yamasee. Then he's all that stuff. And then once we do that, we can settle with each other on a human level as kinfolk. So what I'm talking about is kind of erasing some of the boundaries. And that will definitely help. Another thing is we have to get our own media off the ground so this propaganda can cease, because that's one of the biggest things that's causing and exacerbating the divisions. So I believe those three things, and possibly more that I come up with, or you may say, can definitely be implemented today, or at least starting the implementation.
Yeah. Like I said before, before we got online, I think from my point of view, the military pension, the police pension, and I actually put engineering in there as well. I think if people focused on those three, military, engineering, and police pension, and got the police pensions or whatever, became engineers, and moved abroad. So one of the things I think that would bridge the gap is if I went to the military, I retired Air Force, then I moved back to the Caribbean, right?
Uh-huh.
Then I could bridge the gap there, talk to the people there. They'll see that, hey, you know what? This guy, they're not lazy, blah, blah, blah. They're here supporting the community. Same thing. A guy's an engineer. He becomes an engineering consultant, right? He moves over to Eritrea. Then he's working over there. Then you have some other guys who can move over to Europe and set a standard over there. And I think, to me, like I said, we were talking before, building in America would be cool, but I think it's much easier to create those bonds and build overseas as opposed to building in America right now. I think there's just too much vitriol here in America to make anything work.
I hear what you're saying. My thing is we can definitely do both, because America has something the other places don't.
Mm-hmm.
It has a bunch of niggas. Excuse me, I said the word. It has a bunch of brothers and sisters.
Brothers and sisters.
Yeah, it has a bunch of brothers and sisters that set the tone of the culture. And America has a strong media platform
Mm-hmm.
that we can utilize, and it has resources. That's why I fuck with the Great Faulkner Initiative, because it does have merit. Like, we can use some of those resources to navigate so we can set up shop in a foreign country. And you are right. Once we send representatives to interface with the people on a personal basis, it will kind of tear down some of the BS. And really, what you summed it up pretty much. That's that's all I would say on it.
Yeah, I mean, well, let's talk about this whole pro-black thing, right? Because
Uh-huh.
I was thinking about this, and all right, let's talk about. There's a guy, Jared Taylor. He's a white guy, right? And he's always talking about, yeah, white people are, being used and abused and overtaken by minorities or whatever. And then, but yet still, I don't see this guy making any progress as far as like uniting white people. And then I see the same thing with pro-blacks, right? So pro-blacks will say, hey, we need a group economics, all this stuff. But then, I'm 40 plus. Like after 40 years, there doesn't seem to be any progress. Do you think that pro-blacks are actually doing anything positive for the community?
So the real pro-blacks, yes, the ones who are woke, quote unquote, or the other ones, the wayside people, the naysayers, those type of people who exhibit the type of Cynthia G behavior, those people are not doing anything. The brothers like Cerulean Gray and BGS and LVZ and Your World, some of them don't even consider themselves pro-black. But pro-black is not a title; it's an action, it's a lifestyle. So when you brothers like Ali Muhammad, once again, many others, there's a handful of people out here that are pro-black, actually, actually trying to better the community, and they are doing it. Like, for instance, the brother Ali Muhammad is setting up the first black genetics lab. This is a landmark for our people. This has never happened before. Then you have other brothers like BGS and them actually educating kids, and even Angry Man and people in the manosphere. That brother's doing a lot of good work. People email him all the time about how he changed their life and set them on the right path. Like that type of stuff, I consider pro-blackness because it is helping and benefiting the black people who listen and partake in it. But I do agree with your sentiment that a lot of people are not doing the thing, and that is because they are not actually pro-black. They're pro-whack.
Yep. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, man, I was thinking about, okay, let's say like you take 4 or 5 pro-blacks, right? And they each invest $1,000 a month. All right, that $1,000 a month saved up over a year, they could purchase like a duplex. And if you could purchase like each year, purchase another duplex, I mean, it seems like group economics over around like 5-10 years. I mean, you would be doing a-okay. So sometimes I wonder, like, what the hell is going on? Like, what are people really doing? Same thing with the white guy, right? Jared Taylor. This dude has been talking about white unity and he must be like 60 by now, man. Huh. And like nothing seems to be getting done. So it's just like they're always in America. There seems to be this idea that, pro-black unity, white unity, and then Hispanics, and people always say that white people come together more and Hispanics come together more. I don't think that's true. I think what happens is there's a lot of chicken hawks in these type of organizations that really suck a lot of the money and use the people and don't get anything done.
I hear what you're saying.
I mean, how do you differentiate between the people who are really getting things done and the people who are just not doing anything at all?
Their actions will speak. For instance, like I mentioned, some of those brothers I talked about, you can see their work. It's tangible. It's physical. It's not abstract like some of these niggas on. Excuse me, damn, I did it again. Some of these cats on YouTube.
Yeah, cats. Yeah.
Yeah, some of these cats on YouTube. They're not. You can't see their work. It's like you go to preschool, and the teacher tells you to show your work, and you have a bunch of, well, my dog ate my homework, or here it is right here, and it's a bunch of squibbly lines and stuff, or a happy face. Like, that's not showing your work. That's nonsense. That's what you can apply to so-called pro-wax, because these cats out here don't really do anything. They're just offering lip service. They don't donate to anybody. They don't support nothing. They don't do anything. And that ties into the chaff. The 75 to 85% of people in every group is messed up. So we have to look at that and take that into account. So it's really in what are their actions, and more so what tangibles do they have.
So let's see. So if you were to separate yourself from the chaff, how do you go about recruiting the people and finding out who's really there to help the group and who's not?
Well, you can ask them simple questions. One question is, do you want reparations? Do you think it's feasible? That's one question. Another question is, do you think X, Y, and C are the best, course of action? You know, there's certain questions you can ask them and certain tests you can put them through. But like will always attract like. And when you, like, say for YouTube channels, I was attracted to BGS by the message. So when I heard that, I'm like, okay, this resonates with me. That's one way you could do it. And BGS will routinely remove people who do not keep the flow of creativity and unity going, or organization. People who disrupt the flow get removed, like, because they show their hand. They always show their hand. You can't hide things in the dark for at least, too long. The universe will expose you, and if you take one step forward, the universe will take 3 steps forward for you. So you have to show initiative, and the people will come. When the student appears, the master will come. That type of stuff. It actually works. And you can definitely tell who is the garbage type of person by what they say and what they do. We have to really look at it through a critical lens, because a lot of people put on blinders when they do this kind of thing. And that's the wrong way to do it. Like, say, for instance, you have an organization and a brother comes in and he talks pro-black at the beginning, but then you see it bringing a white woman in. And then he slowly starts saying stuff like, oh, well, not all of them are bad. Say this is what their organization believes, that all are bad and that we should only marry black, as a hypothetical. He comes in saying that kind of stuff. He starts saying we should vote for Trump and all that stuff. Instead of removing him, they say, oh, well, he don't mean it, or everybody's entitled to their opinion. No, that's not how it works. Any well-oiled unit needs cohesion, and they need a single unified code. If you break the code, once again, you get removed. We need to be severely, what do they call the word?
Oh, we throw someone out?
Yeah, we need to be strict about our guidelines and enforce them in a strict manner. That will solve a lot of the issues. Because a lot of times the real pro-black people who are actually doing the work, we're too lenient. We're way too lenient on these people. If they F up, 2 or 3 times, kick them out. Wipe your hands of the situation. It's over. That's my take.
Well, what do you think about people when they say, well, hey, man, well, you're being too harsh. You really need to be a little bit more lenient. You can't. You're trying to be too much like Malcolm X, man. Hey, man, you need to back down. What do you say to those guys?
I tell them, you have 5 seconds to recant your statement, or you will be out the door with it. Because, we've been doing that too much. We've been putting too much leniency on people. And I respect brothers like you. Even though we disagree, I can see at the heart of what you're saying is the same thing I'm saying. So we're not talking about people who disagree on slight variations. I'm talking about people who vehemently disagree with the fundamentals of what we're talking about. So if you don't, if you don't want all black people, or you don't want to create a prosperous group of black people, you got to go. I don't care what you say. You can say you're the second coming of nappy-headed Jesus. It don't matter. You got to bounce. You know what I mean? Because you're not really productive. You're just a leech. You're feeding off of our energy like a psychic vampire. So I would tell them to bounce. or correct yourself or bounce, because we got rules here. Do you go to the pool and pee in the pool when they tell you no? What happens if they catch you? They kick you out. What happens if you go to the baseball game nude? You get thrown out.
Yeah, my whole thing is, when I look at it, man, like I said before, if there's a group of West Indians working together, no one seems to have a problem. If there's a group of Africans working together, no one seems to have a problem. It's always a group of African Americans working together. There's a problem. But the thing is, if Black people focused on helping each other become prosperous, then everyone would benefit. Everyone, like, this is my view. Hispanics benefit, white people benefit, right? Everyone in America, Asians benefit as well. You don't have to worry about crime or any of that type of stuff. Welfare would be eliminated, right? Because you don't need welfare. So that's my whole thing. My whole thing is just like, if you just help everyone become self-sufficient, you have no issues, no problems.
I hear what you're saying, and that makes sense. But I will say this, though, you do need systems like welfare, but in a certain manner where it's not bearing down on the middle class or whatnot. Like the elites have to pay into the system. Everybody has to pay. Everybody benefits because we're all working towards the same societal goal. And it's not hidden or compartmentalized like in America or other Western countries. So it's sort of like an egalitarian type of society. That what I envision for something that would be more beneficial to everybody. And ideally, you are correct. If everybody, does their own thing and becomes the best version of themselves and self-sufficient to a certain degree, because, humans are herd animals, so we obviously work together. But, self-sufficient in terms of, well, hey, I own my own business of making shoes, and I sell my shoes to the cobbler. I mean, not the cobbler, the what they call it, the ranch hand down the street who feeds me, puts food on my table. So that type of stuff. That's definitely the goal. But I would say each group needs to, kind of mind their own damn business and focus on what they're doing and improve themselves. Because, like I said, this is still a race. And even if we have ideals for other groups, they might not share those same ideals for us. Like a lot of these groups. Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm not even talking about other groups. And that's why I like these type of discussions. I'm talking about focusing on, if you just focus on your group and you're not focused on the other groups, it'll all fall into place. Like I said, like the military thing, right? If I made a mandate, all Black men go into the military and retire at 20 years, right, to get the $3,000 coming in a month, 50,000 Black dudes do it, right? That's 50,000 Black dudes. They're cool. They don't need welfare. They don't need health because the military will pay for your health and stuff too, right? You don't You don't even have to worry about what the white guy is doing, what the Hispanic guy is doing, what the Asian guy is doing, because you're good to go. Yeah. Now within that group, I may choose to work with you. I may choose to work with Nagone. I may choose to work with Black Ram 313, and that just makes it even better. Yeah. But I'm not worried about like the other groups. One of the things I notice about West Indians is West Indians tend to people will come at you with racism and stuff, but they're so focused on their goals for the future that generally they don't let that affect them. Of course, most of the time you're still in a token role, right? Because you're seen as better than, you know what I mean? But that helps a lot when it comes to becoming successful.
I agree with you. I'll say it like this. You can see the racism there and and see the competition between other groups and your own group there, but you can't become paralyzed by it. You keep it in perspective. So what happens, they're going to attack you. So just prepare and don't fret over when it happens. When it does happen, complete the mission and keep it moving and keep your stuff going. So, it's kind of like being focused. You're so ego visioned on what you're doing that other people, their stuff kind of, it loses its edge. at
Exactly.
least in your mind.
That's the
But you
thing.
still, I mean, they still will be attacking you, but you know, you can defend accordingly. But when you do that eagle vision focus on what you're doing, you'll be pretty much in a better position.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. It seems like, and it goes to show the victim narrative, or whatever. People always say, well, African Americans are victims. They use that, but I do understand where a lot of African Americans are coming from because you are a victim. It's just that you say, well, I'm not gonna allow this to stop me from getting ahead in my life.
Yep.
And that's the thing, man. That's why I like these conversations, man, because you have to get to the bottom. I understand where you're coming from. You understand where I'm coming from.
Yep.
Now, I think it would be cool to get some panels. You know what I'd like to see, man? Get some guys from England, get some guys from Africa, and do something again like this, and where we're all talking about this, and we're all
Hmm.
coming to that the common ground. O'Shea was doing it a little bit with. I don't know if you remember a couple of English guys back in the day, but he doesn't seem to be doing that as much. I wonder why.
I don't know, man. It could be anything.
Because you have the plantation paying $1,400 a month with split custody to the what the hell? Oh, I'm reading this comment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but what do you think? Okay, so moving forward, where do you think uh, the diaspora is going in terms of progression?
Uh, that's a good question. This is what I think. It's going two directions. First off, splitting off. Like I said, once again, the wheat in the chat. Those who are strong enough and mentally prepared enough and whatnot to survive will survive. And they're pushing ahead. The other people are languishing. It's like a race. We started out as running at the same speed behind everybody else. So we running behind everybody else. One of the racers who is black, they both are black. One of the black racers is starting to pick up his pace. He's starting to visualize his goal and he's reaching it. He's encroaching upon other groups who have been racing ahead of him and the other guy. The other guy is focused on, damn, I'm losing, all this other stuff, or I suck, or let me keep doing this fuckery that I've been doing. And he's lagging behind. So I see it as the natural conclusion. I'm not a Darwinian because human evolution is bogus. But I will say this: the strongest do survive. So I do see the strong among us progressing towards some kind of goal. And I do see the weak among us falling to the wayside.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. I think, like I said, right now, man, I don't even focus on like racism and stuff anymore, man. Back in the day, I was just like, okay. There was a time when I hung out with only all black guys, right? That's it. Like, if you weren't black, I wasn't hanging out with you. Then there was a time where I hung out with all white guys, right? And I used to hang out with, but then when I went to the military, I learned that, and this isn't, and I'm not trying to make it seem like it's some airy fairy nonsense. I started noticing that it comes down to if the person's basically cool or not, if they're a good person or not. So, like I was telling you before, I met people from all different races that were cool, that helped me out. But it's like, so if I meet someone, I don't care what the race they are, and they're not cool, man, I don't hang out with them. But here's the deal.
Okay.
It forces you to be alone because what you find out is there's not really a lot of cool dudes, man, because the way
Yep.
American society is set up, it's designed to keep people at odds with one another. And people always say, and I always go back to this, oh, that white people work together, blah, blah, blah. That what's that show? Mad Men. Mad Men,
Uh-huh.
those Mad Men days are over, where white people are working together and all this stuff. That's been over since like 1970. It's not like that anymore. My
Yeah.
goal now is that I don't even really care about racism as much. I know that I'm gonna get it every day. My goal now is to focus on, like, if I can help other men be good men, and if they can bring something to the table and help me out, whatever, I'm gonna use it. If I can't, then hey, because I noticed there's a lot of guys a lot of black dudes in America, just men in America, period, they'll just throw away good advice.
Yep.
Depending on who it's coming from.
Yep.
You know what I mean? They'll just throw it away, and then they'll miss out on all these opportunities, man. I mean, what do you think about that?
No, you're definitely right. And I'm along the same lines of what you're saying. I recognize racism is there. I recognize it comes from multiple groups of people. I recognize that there's obstacles. But what do you do with the obstacles? You assess it, evaluate it, and then jump over it or step aside and navigate around it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm focused on building. But I also do understand what's going on around in the world around me. And I'm planning accordingly. But I'm focused more on building. But I do see what you're saying. Some people, it flies over their head or they reject it because of who you are, what you're saying, you know, that type of thing. But you can't really preach to everybody. Not everybody's going to get it. So that's why I had this attitude. And I want only your brothers because I'm looking at my sons that I will have later who will be black. And I want them to have black families too. So those brothers that I helped, they're going to have daughters. And their daughters going to marry my sons and keep this thing going. So that's why, you know, Eagle Vision focus on black folks, at least the ones among us who want better. But I hear what you're saying, though. Eventually, because every civilization is in cycles. So right now, the Chinese turn is coming up, or the Asian. The Asian will not be able to hold on to his power because of certain issues such as population and the natural progression of heat and temperature rising on this planet. And the only people who are going to be left are people with melanin. So, you know, a bunch of other things contribute to that, but that's the main gist of it. And what happens to the remnants? Like, say we had, I don't know, there's a population of 500,000 Europeans and Asians who did not participate in the, per se, in the nonsense, and they're left and they're begging to come into our nations that we have formed as black people. What do we do with them? That's a question we have to ask ourselves. So I hear what you're saying. They're going to have to be, like, people like you will have to train them to be, what you call it? I don't want to say subservient, but amicable to what we're doing, because our power is coming up. Our turn is approaching.
Yeah, I mean, man, let me ask you this. What do you think? Like, people always say that, you know, black women in America, they're queens and they're goddesses and all that stuff. And that you should throw your life on the line and help them out, all that stuff. What do you think about that argument or that debate?
Can you repeat that again?
Well, when they say that the black and you should throw your life on the line to help them and in America I'm MGTOW, so I don't believe any of that stuff. But
yeah, I hear you.
But what do you think about that?
Okay, now I get the question. This is what I think. Those who are worthy will get protection. Those who are not worthy will get no protection. If you act like one of these YouTube ladies who acts crazy, like Cynthia G or whatever, I'm not helping you. I don't care what you say. You can't guilt me. You can't shame me into helping you. Now, if you act like Kendra D, yes, I will help you. So it's based on the person. It's not based on, oh, you're a black woman, I have to help you regardless. If you're getting attacked by a non-black person, then I might have to step in because that's on a different level. Maybe. We have to, you know, evaluate the situation based on what's going on and the certain factors in it. But I will say this, the sisters who deserve it, they will get protection. Like, say, my wife, the woman that I pick to be my wife, because I don't have a wife yet, still single, baby. But anyway, yeah, she will get protection because I will not settle. That's another thing brothers have to do. Do not settle. If a chick is bummy, but she has nice cooch, leave her. If she is ugly, but she has nice cooch, leave her. If the chick has feminist and too much of that feminist stuff in her head, leave her. Don't mess with her. You know, it's really simple. Like, just enforce standards. The women who fit the criteria, protect them. The women who don't, fuck them. That's my stand.
You know what I think? I think if I was a dictator and I decreed, I would say, I would be like, look, after those, the pension thing, the guys secured their money, they served the country or whatever. If they're living overseas, I would say, look, I would have like a group of men that go around, look at different types of women, gauge who they are, how cool they are. And if you want to have a kid, they would pick the woman for you. Like, she fits the criteria. They want to have a kid, but the man would be responsible for raising the kid. I think the weak link when it comes to men has always been women. I think women, they weaken men, man. Like men become soft, and then they start teaching their kids like this, because I think men, when they approach their kids, they tell them like how life is really supposed to be. Like, this is what you're gonna have to deal with. This is the hard times you're gonna come across. And I think when women weaken men, man, they start filling their kids' heads with like these fairy tale nonsense type things, and their kids end up being weak. So, like, I'm MGTOW, so I'm not about marriage and cohabitation. But if a dude wants to have a kid or whatever, I think he should pick a chick and make sure that he has enough money to raise the kid if he has to on his own.
I know what you're saying.
I mean, but that's why I get your point.
Yeah. I definitely agree with most of what you just said. Like, what you call it? We should start what they call selective mating, which is pairing people up based on certain factors like astrological, cosmological stuff, personality types, things of that nature. I do understand how some brothers want to go MGTOW and stuff. I personally don't subscribe to that, because even if I don't do the state marriage, which I do not agree with, I might do some African polygamy. So,
yeah.
I mean, I'm like going back to the ancient stuff, not even what the modern Africans practice, because what the modern Africans practice is not the ancient African form of polygamy, and the ancient, because that is what our people traditionally practice. So if you're gonna do that, if you're gonna get married to the right woman. I do understand and know that the son needs his mother in his life. Now that depends on who the father laid down with. If the mother's crazy, get that kid away from him. I mean, get that kid away from her rather, because it's gonna turn into a horrible situation. But if you married a good woman, and I mean a good woman who's down with your program, I'm not talking about an average woman. I mean a good woman that's down with your program. She should be in her son's life, because that will give the boy balance. Because that's one of the things we lacking in the community. We don't have no balance. Either it's super masculine, crazy stuff that's not even really masculine, or it's super feminine stuff that's not really feminine. That's crazy. And so we got to, balance it out.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. Polygamy, huh?
Yeah. Hey, man, I don't got no problem with that.
Oh, man, that polygamy thing, it always gets me, because female nature is, I mean, one is better. I mean, but that's the thing. That's what the discussion is all about. Like, when it comes to like one female, man, the manipulation, the shit test, the lies are bad enough. Now multiply that by 6, 7. I mean,
yeah, you're right.
You're asking for it. You're asking to get poisoned, stabbed in your sleep.
Yeah, you're right. But what it really depends on who you do it with. Like, you can't do polygamy with an American woman. The chances of that, are slim to none. Yeah. So, I hear what you're saying. Definitely, it can conflate the issue. I mean, it can inflate the issue rather. But if you find the right woman, and not just based on looks, fellas, you can't base everything on how your dick feels. You got to go on other qualities. Looks are important, don't get me wrong, but you have to be able to balance that out with her other qualities. because you need somebody that can help you do your business and that's down with your program so that you can raise your kids to be down with the program and keep the mission going, because legacy is important. And if you create a business and you don't teach your son how to handle and expand that business, then what the hell did you waste your life for? Pretty much, wasted your time. That's
Yeah,
my only thing on polygamy.
yeah, man. A lot of guys like polygamy. I think polygamy will do a lot of dudes in, because the thing is, what I notice about women is that you can't control them, man. Like a lot of guys think that, oh yeah, get with the program. Yeah, of course they're gonna get with the program initially, but it only takes one thing. Their mom died. The sun, it was the sun wasn't shining bright enough one day, and then that could cause them to turn on you. And then once they turn, like once one starts scheming, then they all start scheming. And then now you're screwed, man. She's taking you to court. She's doing all sorts of stuff. Like there was this one guy, man, this YouTuber. He was talking about he went over to Africa, right? And he had a friend over there who was polygamous, right? So he had, like, I don't know, 4 wives.
Yeah, that's too much.
Yeah, he said, man, they were all like materialistic, and they were all like, just using the dude. And that's the thing with polygamy. I just think you're always going to be in a situation where the women are going to be using you. But then again, who am I to judge, right? That's why we're having these discussions right now. Who am I to judge? Yeah. What works for you may not work for me. You know what I mean? Exactly.
Not everybody can handle it.
And that's the thing what I like about these discussions. Like, we're having a civil discussion, man. We're not, when I see some of these podcasts, man, they're like going back and forth, debating, calling people simps and Negro this, Negro that. I mean, what is the point of that? You may not agree with everything I say. I may not agree with everything you say, but the points are coming across. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But anyway, I think we had a pretty good discussion, man. I think I actually really appreciate you coming on and discussing what you had to say, man.
No problem, brother. We all family, man. We all building, learning from each other. You feel me?
Is there anything you wanted to say as far as like people reaching you, as far as like some closing statements before we get off here?
I will say this. Thank you, Brother Experience, for having me on the panel. And definitely, folks, support this brother. He's trying to do good things. Teamwork is key. There's no I in team. You have to set aside your ego. You got to be able to be balanced and fair and pragmatic, excuse me. You got to be able to look at things with the critical eye and use your discernment and intuition. Like I said, balance is key. You can't have a one-sided, biased, dogmatic point of view. You have to be open to new ideas and new possibilities. Work on your communication skills if you don't have good ones, because that shit will benefit you when you get older. For contacting me, you can use this email, toneguard2@gmail.com. And I'm going to definitely keep you guys posted on what the music side of things is doing, because we got some great content. It's some dumb Negro stuff sometimes, but it's dope. Because you got to make money in the music industry some way. You feel me?
So, you're not talking about selling out, are you?
Nah,
I don't want to hear Migos stuff.
We got to get some Migos stuff, but we mix it in with some conscious stuff. Okay.
I hope so.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You gonna hear it.
When are you gonna be back on the Super Triz podcast?
I'm gonna definitely see. I'm gonna chop it up with Triz, see what his schedule's like, stuff like that, because I be busy sometimes. So we gotta kind of map it out. But usually you can also find me at pretty much any of the channels I'm sub to. Sometimes I try to pop in at least and show support once or twice. I might be on BGS channel Saturday. We're gonna see. Maybe Super Triz, somebody else. I don't know. but it's probably soon.
Oh, shit. Perfect, man. Well, I just want to say I appreciate it one more time, man. And I guess I'll talk to you later, sir.
I no doubt, brother. Thanks. Peace.
No